What's up, everyone? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college basketball. And today it is Wednesday, March the 26th. We have a pair of NIT games. We have the CBI Championship. Before we get started, I want to thank anyone who has supported the channel. We are officially 106 subscribers away from 1,000, that big benchmark we've set for ourselves. So thank you if you've subscribed to the video. Thank you if you've left a comment or just liked the video. All of that does help a ton. Even if you've just watched, it's not lost on me. You're spending some time out of your day with us. So thank you. I appreciate it. Let's dive into our NIT games. We have UAB taking on UC Irvine. This game has a spread of 4.5 points, and the total comes in at 160. There are no major injuries in this game, at least on paper so far, and these teams have played a couple times. To get here, UAB, who ranks 102nd, beat St. Joe's by 4 points, and then they beat up on Santa Clara, who was 52nd overall in the country, but did not have Adama Ball, their best player in that game. They won that contest by 4 points. Overall, they went 4-6 in the top 100, beating North Texas twice on top of their NIT wins, and they did lose outside the top 100 6 times. The two worst were to Vermont at 241 and Longwood at 210. Then you look to UC Irvine. This team is 67th overall. The Big West got a real big boost. So UC San Diego, made the tournament and busted right away to Michigan. But now, so we get our second representative in the postseason with UC Irvine. They beat Northern Colorado by 10, who is the 125th overall. And then they beat Jacksonville State, who is 108th, by 5 points to get here. They went 1-3 in the top 100. They did beat UC San Diego once out of the 3 times they played. UC San Diego came in 39th. And then they lost outside the top 100 3 times. The worst one came to UC Riverside. So a little bit more on the high end, a little bit less on the low end compared to UAB overall. That's how you get the better power ranking. As far as pace goes, this game has pretty decent pace. UAB is 69th. UC Irvine's 104th. Not much has really changed since these teams got into conference play. And then when you look at the stylistics, this is probably going to be a tough one for UAB. Excuse me. And that's largely because UAB is 132nd in total height, 32nd in rebounding, but most of their offense comes through Yaxel Lendenborg, who is 100th. He's a top 100 rebounder in the country at 6'9". It's going to be very hard for Lendenborg to get this going against UC Irvine, though, who is 79th in effective height, 43rd in rebounding, and that's because they have a 7'1" center in Ben Lukton, who is an absolute wagon defending the rim. So this sets up probably the best matchup of the entire slate. What does the 6'9" Lendenborg do against Lukton inside for UC Irvine and vice versa? As far as shooting goes, UAB is 149th in effective field goal, 222nd in 2-point percentage, 146th in 3-point percent. Again, Lendenborg has the highest assist rate on the team. They run the entire offense through him. He does kick out threes to Tyron Moore and Jabari McGee at times. Both of those players are above 40%, but not the biggest samples. UC Irvine is strong on defense, especially inside. They're second there, 204th defending the three. Again, we mentioned that elite matchup inside. A lot of this is probably going to come down to, can Lendenborg score on his own? And when he's not scoring and Lukton stops him, are they kicking out to open threes? Which throughout the Big West season, UC Irvine has given up. They might have to increase their three-point rate in this game, but we'll see how UAB does succeeding against this defense, which is imbalanced but very, very strong inside. When UC Irvine has the ball offensively, they're 119th in effective field goal, 181st in 2-point percent, 87th in 3-point percent. Miles Che is a 42% three-point shooter, and he's not even the most efficient player on offense. When you looked at effective field goal percent for individual players, Lukton and Devin Tillis are the two most players. They're just better at getting to the rim. Lukton obviously stands right next to the rim, and Tillis is a guard who can get there too. UAB is 236th in total D, 158th inside, and 255th defending the three. So you're going to have openings if you're UC Irvine, almost without a doubt, getting to the basket against UAB, who's not strong anywhere on defense. From there, UC Irvine is 244th in turnovers committed. That's been a problem for them. But the other issue is UAB doesn't force any turnovers. They rank 301st. So that projects to be fairly clean. UC Irvine does force a lot more turnovers, but then UAB is 12th in turnovers committed. This team is never turning the ball over. It's a little strength on strength, weakness on weakness here. Neither team fouls much, but if either one gets to the line, they do shoot free throws very well, both teams actually. With all of that said, this sets up pretty significantly for an under for us. We make this 74 to about 79 points, which puts it right around that 5-point spread, but well below the 160 total. Even with the good pacing, you do have UAB's really strong offense facing off against UC Irvine's really strong defense, and the best player for UAB is facing the best part of Irvine's defense. And then conversely, UC Irvine has a lot of problems scoring at times versus UAB's defense, which is lackluster. If you forced me to pick a side, it would be UC Irvine. But right now, the best play in the game comes in under 160. Before we move on, if you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 100-GAMBLER. It must be 21 or older to play in most areas. Next up in the NIT, we have Kent State taking on Loyola Chicago. This game has a spread of 5 points in favor of Loyola Chicago, a 144 total. Some injuries on both sides. Kent State's Anthony Morales has been out for a while. Loyola Chicago's Justin Moore has been out for a while. But Kimani Hunsu, I always get his name wrong. He's a transfer too. I'm going to call him Kimani. He missed their last game. Anyway, as far as the resume stuff for both of these teams, Kent State is 109th. Loyola Chicago comes in 106th. To get here, Kent State beat St. Bonaventure, crushed them, and then they knocked off Stanford by 2 points. They went 2-5 against the top 100. Those 2 wins against Stanford and then Arkansas State in the MAC Sunbelt crossover. Kent State did lose 6 times outside the top 100, the worst of which came to 274 Ball State and 289 Western Michigan. Loyola Chicago to get here beat San Jose State at 171. I have no idea why they were in the NIT. And then they beat San Francisco at 66, which might seem impressive, but they did not have Marcus Williams, Tyron Riley, or Ryan Beasley, and they still only won by a point. So, yeah, you're going to have games like that in the NIT. You need to check box scores and see who actually played for these teams because there's a lot of them that are just phoning it in. Florida Gulf Coast phoned it in yesterday. Anyway, that was CBI. But overall, this team went 3-6 against the top 100, beat Dayton, St. Joe's, and San Francisco. They lost outside the top 100 5 times, the worst of which came to Oakland at 174. So a better, I guess, low end for Loyola Chicago compared to Kent State. They have better opportunities playing in the A-10 versus the MAC, so it is what it is. Kent State is 239th in pace. Loyola Chicago is 206. Sorry, I'm going to clear my throat. This keeps happening. Excuse me. At least I got the mute up that time. Not sure what this is. Anyway, back to pace. Kent State is 239th. Loyola Chicago is 206th. Since January 1st, most of that has remained constant. Kent State's gotten a little faster, but Loyola Chicago has dropped, bringing us to about the same projected tempo in the game. Kent State is a small team. They are 306th in effective height, 31st in rebounding. Loyola Chicago is 175th in effective height, 107th in rebounding. But there is some nuance to this. Kent State comes in with a really small height number because they play a bunch of tiny guards. Sian Medley and Jalen Sullinger are both below 6 feet tall. So you actually have some pretty decent size in the post. That's how you get good rebounding numbers. It's just they play with minuscule guards, which they're going to be at a size disadvantage in most games because of that. But just know it's largely guard play. They're not playing with like a small center or something like that. Shooting-wise, Kent State is 283rd in effective field goal, 217th in 2-point percent, 307th in 3-point percent. You basically have Sullinger hitting 38.5% of his threes, and no one else is above 33%, which is a problem. Loyola Chicago plays good defense. They are 88th in total D, 50th inside, 155th defending the three. So I guess if you're looking for an avenue of success, shooting the ball over the top is probably the way you do it. But Kent State ranking outside the top 300 in 3-point percent is a major problem in this contest. From there, when Loyola Chicago has the ball, they're 94th in effective field goal. They're 88th in 2-point percent and 158th in three. They have a lot of excellent scoring options. Sheldon Edwards is the best 3-point shooter at 38%, but Des Watson and Jaden Dawson, they trail closely. So it's pretty close between those three. That's 3 options that can shoot over the top. Kent State plays solid defense. They're 89th overall, 107th inside, 46th defending the three. On the periphery, Kent State is ahead of Loyola Chicago in turnovers forced, 92 to 150. but both teams do turn the ball over a fair amount. So this is a small micro edge to Kent State. You also have Kent State outranking Loyola Chicago in fouls generated. It's 164 to 254. And both teams foul a lot. So that's another potential micro edge for Kent State. And then free throw percent. Kent State does outrank Loyola Chicago 94 to 323. So all of these peripheral edges go Kent State's direction. But basically everything in the half court, offense and defense, favors Loyola Chicago, which brings us to a spread that's about efficient. But we do think an under is worth playing at 144. I'm going to wait on this and see if we can't get a better number. It's been coming up. And the reasons don't make a lot of sense. You're going to get a below average pace in this game. Not significantly below average, but below average. And from there, you're going to get two teams that are better on defense than offense. Just total offense, both of them are outside the top 130. And we have two top 90 defenses that are sort of strong where the opponent is weak. So we're probably going to play this as long as I don't forget. But the under 144 number is okay. I just think you're going to get a better one. So we're going to wait and see. This will be in Discord, of course, if you're interested. Still projecting every game aside in a total. And we're doing player props for all the major games and whatever they offer us for the CBI and NIT. That's points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, minutes, you name it, it is there. $10 for a week, $30 for a month. You can still get all of the remaining March Madness games with no long-term commitment. So check that out. The link is below. The CBI championship is between Cleveland State and Illinois State. 2-point spread in favor of Illinois State at 142 total. No major injuries in this game, which is important because most of the other teams have not been trying very hard. Illinois State is 137th overall. They beat Presbyterian, who is 233rd, and Incarnate Word, who is 224th to get here. They're now 11-12 against the top 200. Their best wins are in the top 100 against UAB and Bradley, but they did lose outside the top 200 twice to Tennessee Martin and Evansville. Cleveland State is 148th overall. They beat Queens and Florida Gulf Coast to get here. Florida Gulf Coast did not have Keyshawn Kelman, Rory Stewart, or Xavier McLean. Overall, they are 7-9 against the top 200. Best wins are against Milwaukee and IPFW, Robert Morris as well. They lost outside the top 200 three times, the worst of which came to 328 Morehead State. This is another slow game, at least projected. Cleveland State is 277th in tempo. Illinois State is 273rd. Cleveland State is 219th in effective height, 195th in rebounding. Illinois State is 292nd in effective height, 172nd in rebounding. And Cleveland, this is a weird matchup for Cleveland State, as yesterday was too. They do most of their work on the offensive glass. They're 45th, but Illinois State is 10th in defensive rebounding. So that should mitigate what Cleveland State does on the glass largely. They went through effort and coaching. Shooting-wise, Cleveland State is 259th in effective field goal, 241st in two-point percent, 238th in three-point percent. You basically just have Taj Stavesky shooting 36% from three. No one else is above 32, at least on a decent sample. But there are avenues. Illinois State is 222nd in total defense, 269th inside, 313th defending the three. It's good that they're a solid defensive rebounding team because you have a team that can't shoot versus a team that can't defend. If the defense wins and Cleveland State needs to live on the glass, that's at least a strength for Illinois State. On the other side, Illinois State is 19th in effective field goal percent, 17th in two-point percent, 36th in three-point percent. Johnny Kinziger, Malachi Poindexter, Jack Doherty all shoot at least 38% from three. Cleveland State is solid on defense, certainly better than Illinois State. Cleveland State comes in 110th in total D, 129th inside, 222nd defending the three. There's a weakness here, and that's the three-point shot. That's a problem against Illinois State, who's going to shoot them a lot and shoot them well and shoot them over the top of you. Micro edges, Cleveland State is 8th in turnovers forced, but the problem is Illinois State is fairly secure with the ball, 86th overall. Illinois State, they are a team that will generate fouls, but Cleveland State doesn't commit fouls. So we do have some micro edges for Cleveland State here, but they are very small. Just basically both teams are fairly strong in these areas, so we don't really have much edge. But if you were to parse them and see who is ahead, it is Cleveland State slightly. But bench minutes, Cleveland State is only 276th, and Illinois State is 82nd in free throw percent. So if Cleveland State does get in foul trouble, that is a problem, not only for their lack of depth, but also you don't want to put this Illinois State team on the line. We make this at minus 1.9. I disagree with this. I would rather play Illinois State. So we're going to hold off on this and see if it doesn't come down, and maybe we'll play an Illinois State side if it makes sense. I would say the under's in play for a third straight game, but I'm scared of the shooting with this Illinois State team, as we saw yesterday. So this will be a pass. We will wait and see if we can't get a better number. And we will move forward later on today with the Sweet 16. Until then, thank you for watching. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you later.